All right. I think we are live. Hey guys. How's it going? How's it going? All right. So I'm just going to give people a few seconds here to jump in, but excited to get started. So just to give you some insight into what we're going to be discussing in today's live webinar, I'm super stoked to be talking about social media and how we can kind of make it work smarter and harder for cabinet brands, how to do that. So yeah, today's really just all about leveraging social media to grow visibility, drive traffic, generate leads, all focused on the cabinet industry, obviously, because that's what we focus on here. So yeah, basically, whether you're a manufacturer, dealer, designer, hoping that you will be able to walk away today with some just kind of fundamental strategies on surrounding how to use social media for your business. And hopefully these strategies are something that you can implement quickly, get off the ground right away. um, so with that said, let me go ahead and get this up. Yeah, like I said, today's all about leveraging social media for cabinet brands. So more specifically, what we're gonna kind of be diving into here is best social media platforms for cabinet businesses, some top performing content formats on those different platforms, uh, how often, like what cadence you should be posting, and maybe some opportunities for boosting engagement. And then we'll kind of wrap up with running effective local paid ads on social media platforms. So let's dig into it here. Starting with where you should be posting, focusing on those channels, right? So I've highlighted kind of four here that we think are sort of highest priority for cabinet businesses for a few reasons. But just going, platform by platform here. Instagram is a really big one. It's great because it's a super visual platform. Obviously, it's kind of visuals first, right? Perfect for showcasing designs, installations, like finished projects, before and afters for those projects. Also, really good for short form video, right? So your reels, your stories, stuff like that. And these days, video is really king, right? So putting some emphasis on um, platforms that cater to video and really try to push that um, makes a lot of sense, especially for cabinet businesses, because it is a very visual business, right? This is at the end of the day something that people are going to have to look at in their house every single day. So want to make sure that you're pushing those visuals. Facebook, um, super powerful for local reach, right? So um, helps people in a local area kind of get in touch with you, find you, go visit your showroom, things like that for the dealers out there. Also, really great for client reviews and just general community building. Facebook groups are obviously great in that regard. Helps to kind of start discussions surrounding different cabinet trends and different aesthetic styles, things along those lines, right? Um, Also, marketplace, super underutilized for cabinet businesses a lot of the time, but just another opportunity for you to sell direct on another channel. The less steps you have to make people jump through to purchase your product, the better, right? So having the opportunity for kind of native conversions to happen in Facebook, really great. Then looking at Pinterest, another very visual platform, obviously, right? So a lot of emphasis being put on, um, you know, the imagery, videos, so on and so forth that you're using there. But super ideal for inspiration too, right? So when I say inspiration, I just mean to say sharing finished images of your projects or projects that use your products are great ways to kind of get in front of additional viewership. It'll inspire them and their project, and they'll say, "Whoa, where can I find that cabinetry?" Creating design boards surrounding your different products is a really cool tool to be able to kind of just cater to that audience in a really visual way. But yeah, like I said, design boards, color trends, different layout ideas, um, having all of that, kind of displayed on your page in a really creative visual way can make a big impact. And a lot of the time, there's really high intent traffic on those platforms, right? Most of the time, if someone's on Pinterest, or a lot of the time, I should say, when someone's on Pinterest, um, they are looking for that level of inspiration, or ideas for a project that they're working on, whether it's something to do with cabinetry or like weddings, for example, things along those lines, right? So Pinterest, really great platform for cabinet businesses, super underutilized, I think, at this time, but something that we definitely think cabinet businesses should be putting emphasis on. And last but certainly not least is YouTube. Now we call this one out as kind of quote unquote optional, right? But um, again, video is king. So if you can, if you have the resources to create some video content, then YouTube's really great for tutorials, obviously, like educational content surrounding your cabinetry, especially for the manufacturers and stuff at that point, like diving really deep into manufacturing process or the different styles that you offer, things along those lines. Super, super helpful. Behind the scenes content, super popular. People want to know how this stuff gets made at the end of the day. It's interesting, it's intriguing, and especially if it's kind of like ethically sourced materials and things along those lines. That goes a long way as a unique selling proposition, right, for potential customers. And then complete renovations or walkthroughs of finished projects is really cool too. Yes, you can always showcase those finished projects um, using static images, right? But video is just, it's really powerful. It's more engaging, right? So if images are worth 1,000 words, then videos are going to be worth 10x that, right? So um, yeah, just definitely kind of the four channels that we would want to call out as far as or platforms rather that we would want to call out as far as social goes. Um, we think these are by far the most crucial. Not to say that these are the only ones, or that you should exclude other social media platforms. But if you're looking for the most impact, and you want to be able to prioritize your time, these are kind of the four that we would focus on. So yeah, just kind of when you're thinking about um, starting social or kind of reinvigorating your social presence, really focus your energy where you think your ideal clients are, right? So in our case, we think the vast majority of our audience is going to be on these four channels, but might be slightly different for you depending on your area or kind of what you're offering and what that looks like. So definitely consider that. And if you need help figuring that out, come to a resource like Kitchen 365 that can help you sort of better determine what that's going to look like moving forward. But for most cabinet brands, Instagram, Facebook would really be the top priorities, and then Pinterest and YouTube really kind of supplement that with a lot of creative content. So moving right along to content formats. So this might shock you because I've already mentioned it, like I don't even know how many times at this point, but video guys is really, really king. And I mean that when I say it. Excuse me. Especially short form video. So not to say that long term video isn't helpful, but if you're looking for what performs best, especially right now, short form video is just growing and growing and growing in popularity as attention spans decrease, as platforms prioritize with Reels or YouTube Shorts or all the things on the different platforms, whatever you want to call them, TikToks, obviously. That short form content becomes super, super crucial. So things to focus on when you're looking at video content and reels, so on and so forth. Quick tours, like I said, just walking through a finished project or something, or your showroom, right? Cabinet makeovers, it's a really cool one. Again, very visual, showcasing like before and afters, that kind of stuff. Trend explainers. This is something kind of that we do a lot. So just as an example, we'll post something like maybe we'll cut up 15 to 30-second clip of this, from this, where I'm talking about maybe particular platforms or just talking about video and its impact in general, and use that as a reel to inform people, use it as education, and that sort of thing. Great for reach, great for building, subject matter authority, right? That sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, especially on YouTube, it can also be a search engine optimization tool, right? So you should look at YouTube as a search engine. It's literally one of Google's products at this point, right? So just consider that. Video should be definitely a big priority for you. but also carousels. So when I'm saying carousels, what I'm referring to is a series of images that go with each other and kind of tell a story, right? So these are great for, once again, before and after transformations, having that boom, boom, like staunch difference or transformation being sort of visually showcased that makes a big impact. Step by step process posts. This is another big one that we use, right? So, for example, we could walk through something like how to set up your social media platform, how to set up your Instagram page or whatever for success. So we might post something like that. But for cabinet businesses, that might look, something more like sorry, for manufacturers, let's say step-by-step process on how this particular line of cabinets gets made, or step-by-step process on picking a particular style for your kitchen, whatever, right? So there's a million different ways you can go about it, but step-by-step process posts are another cool one there. And then material comparisons. That's another really cool one. So you can look at, um, your all wood versus not all wood, whatever, right? Like, or different, again, different styles, looking at, um, your framed versus frameless, things like that, and just talking through those different kind of aspects of the product or different styles of a product or whatever that looks like, right? But having this kind of visual representation of a story that you're telling um, in a few images is a really cool thing that people tend to respond to pretty well. Stories are also really great. Um, excuse me. So cool thing about stories or ways you can use stories are like day in the life stuff. I think, well, I guess before we get into that, one thing that I'd want to mention is stories are one of those pieces that are most impactful when they're posted frequently, right? So for a lot of cabinet businesses, you might not have time to really commit to creating stories, or you might not feel like you have time to commit to creating stories, and that's okay. If this is one that you need to put on the back burner while you're prioritizing, your video content, your carousels, other stuff, that's cool. But what's great about stories is on most platforms, it's at the top, which is obviously a huge benefit. But secondarily, like it's, I guess, kind of less committal, right? So a lot of the time when someone hops on their social media platforms, they'll start looking through those stories before they even start looking at any of the actual posted content. If you're thinking about like Instagram, for example, you've got the stories at the top. You'll check those out, and then you can proceed from there. But a lot of the time, people get so caught up in stories, and there's so much content there that they might not even look at other stuff. But super great for a few different types of content. So, like I said, day in the life stuff. So, hey, I'm a owner of a showroom. Here's like what my um, morning looks like as I open the showroom. Like that's just fun, interesting content where people feel like they're getting that inside look, and they feel like they've got this. I don't want to say like parasocial relationship with you, but they feel more connected with you. It's more personal. It's less like staunchly professional. Not to say that a professional look is bad by any means, but these days especially, people want to feel like they and especially like for our dealers and retailers, I should say, like showrooms, people want to have that personalized experience and that personal experience where they feel like they know who they're working with and they're confident in that. So yeah, that's day in the life stuff, but installs that are in progress, just a quick video of like, whoa, look, this is really coming together, that kind of stuff is always super cool. Polls are great. They create that engagement that we're looking for as marketers, right? And it genuinely can be super helpful actually if you want some level of direct feedback from your audience. Super great way to do it. Polls. Client shout outs are super fun. And obviously clients appreciate that, but this is a really fun, easy, quick way to do that. Even if you're just like in a meeting with a client, or whatever, you're working on a design kitchen design project or something, snap a pic or take a quick video and be like, hey, working with so and so today, can't wait to get their project started, or can't wait to finalize this, or whatever. But yeah, just a great way to keep your brand kind of active on a really frequent basis. And my recommendation with stories is don't overthink it, right? Um, a lot of the time, I think people get caught up with like quality um, of their content, but and not to say that quality is important, but um, it's 2025, guys. We all have a supercomputer in our pocket that's got really, really great photo and video capabilities. So take advantage of that. It doesn't have to be a crazy 4K video with the top of the line videographer. I think that sort of content has its place, most definitely. But for something like a story, especially, do not be afraid to take a quick video, take a quick photo, add a caption, add a poll, add whatever, right? And then just throw it up. Goes a long way, and again creates that sense of engagement that your audience is probably looking for. Then lastly, we've got pins. So this one's obviously specific to Pinterest, but wanted to call it out here because we brought up Pinterest as a priority platform, right? So great thing about Pinterest is the aspect ratio can be different, which is cool. You can kind of take up more of their screen and showcase products and things like that in that sense. So if you wanted to create like kind of taller content, basically, it's a cool way to do it, or rather, it's a good way to do it on Pinterest. Text overlaid images of final kitchens are really cool. Um, so like again, kind of like the visual storytelling that you're doing with carousels, you can do that with Pinterest too. And it can either act as a good driver for like learning more information. Um, if you've got, let's say, like maybe if you're trying to create some intrigue, right? Sort of a blurry picture, maybe of a finished project, or visit this to check out the full, finalized product, or not product, but project, and yada yada yada. There's a lot of cool ways that you can create interest using Pinterest and different styles of content or boards on there. Excuse me. Mood boards, like we mentioned before, another really cool thing that you can do. So I called a lot of that stuff out before, but think about your different styles, think about your different colors, think about your different stains, all the different options that you have available in your showroom, or in your manufactured line. Uh, Pinterest is a really great way to visually showcase that through pins. But also, don't forget to link. Like I kind of alluded to before, with that sense of creating intrigue. Um, Pinterest is a great way to drive traffic to your site, right? So you entice people with the visual aspects of your business and your products, and then you've got a link attached to that pin. So that way, if they click it, they're going to a blog to learn more about that particular thing, or to a product page to see that particular product, maybe purchase that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely keep in mind when you're on Pinterest and creating boards or pins, that you need to link where you can, where applicable, where it makes sense. Um, and one other thing, just going back to my point about um, not overthinking content, great way to create more content in a really efficient and low pressure way is just to repurpose stuff that you already have, right? So think about it, maybe for example, in terms of a project. There's so many things that you can do with a single kitchen project. That can become a walkthrough video, right? That can become a carousel of before and after. That can become pinned images, where you're then linking to a uh, kind of a case study page, maybe about that project. It can become a Facebook post with a client like testimonial. So there's a ton of different ways that you can take advantage of a singular um, project or aspect of your business. So um, don't be afraid to get creative. There's a lot that you can do with just a single thing, right? Awesome. So let's move on. I feel like hopefully you guys are getting some value out of this. I'm seeing a few, thumbs up and things, so I appreciate that. But yeah, let's keep it moving. So now let's dig into cadence, how often you should be posting, because that is something that we get asked all the time. It's like, how often should I be posting? Like, is that even important these days? It's, whatever, right? Um, and so we've got kind of a rough framework that we use for different platforms, or different content formats even, that you should probably consider when you're creating content, but don't use this as any sort of like hyper strict guideline. Don't feel like you have to stick to this 100%. This is going to vary, depending on your geography, your different target audience, that sort of stuff. So you can use this as a rough framework maybe to get started, but um, feel free to adjust as you see fit. That said, looking at Instagram and Facebook, generally speaking, if you're posting on there, it should be between 2 to 5 times ish a week. I definitely say minimum twice a week would be my biggest call out there, because you have to be posting at least frequently enough to kind of keep people enticed or keep people, um, like they're up to speed on what's currently happening in your business, or that you are continuing to be a knowledge leader and a kind of a partner for them and that sort of stuff. So yeah, 2 to 5 times ish a week is generally what we'd advise there. But again, don't feel like that's a strict guideline. Stories, though, kind of like I mentioned before, super low hanging fruit that you should be focusing on ideally daily, right? And um, again, I walked through a ton of different ways that you can do that, a ton of different types of stories that you can post. But yeah, really, if you want to stay, kind of top of mind for stories, let's try and get those out daily. Pinterest, I'd say similarly to IG and Facebook, probably 2 to 5 ish pins per week, or maybe if you want to put out a full board per week, or like when I say full board, like a full mood board or whatever, um, that that can make a lot of sense. It kind of depends on what your Pinterest strategy is, and what the intent is for that channel, but um, and well, that can be said for any of these channels, but especially for Pinterest, there's just so many different kind of avenues and ways that you can interact there. Um, yeah, just I would say minimum twice a week. And if you want to learn more, give me a call. Then YouTube. Yeah, I'd say probably twice a month is best way to kind of stay active there and stay top of mind. Um, and those again don't have to be super crazy quality videos. You could just focus on like a YouTube Shorts strategy, which is a lot lower pressure. But yeah, don't be afraid either to invest in some nice video content. It could be as simple as recording, kind of like what I'm doing, talking head content about your product line or about your projects. This is like a project of the week series where you walk through a particular project or something along those lines, right? But twice ish a month is usually a good cadence if you want to get some really nice quality content out there. um, before we move on from cadence, though, a couple things I wanted to call out here, that we similarly get asked a lot, and that's about engagement. So, the two biggest questions I always get asked when I'm looking at social media is how often should I post? And, do you guys like manage my comments and engagements and stuff like that? So, on the engagement side of things, again, my advice is don't overthink it. Super low pressure, and keep it personal. People want to feel like they're talking to a human and that they're able to engage directly with business owners or business people, or at least that are participants in the business, right? So things that you can do to better engage your audience on social media: ask questions and captions like, top comment, would you choose navy or white cabinets in this scenario or for this project, like something like that. But great way to kind of spur a conversation. Use polls or sliders in stories to engage. Right, that's a super easy one that people are more than likely going to interact with, just because it's all they have to do is click and drag or tap a their option, right? Just but there's a lot of fun stuff you can do there. Like it doesn't always have to be so buttoned up and whatever. Like try to keep it casual in some circumstances. That can be super beneficial, um, and makes people feel like, again, they're working with a human. um, do your best to reply to comments and DMs. I know at scale that can get really tough once you're like really off the ground. Um, but especially if you're just starting, it's so easy to just take a look at the comments on your most recent posts, if there are any, and say, hey, thank you for this. Like, thank you for the support, or um, wow, that's a great take on this. your on this post, or like, oh wow, your opinion, like that's super interesting. We hadn't thought about it that way, or something like that, right? But DMs especially, guys, a lot of time if someone's DMing you, if they've gone out of their way to do that, they are your ideal customer. Like that's someone that you should be talking to. Because honestly, in our experience, a lot of the time, especially for cabinet businesses, if they're sending you a DM, it's about a product, and they want to learn more, they want to purchase, and they want it for their project, or they want it for their showroom. Like, please, please, please prioritize those DMs, guys. It's something that's so easy that gets overlooked more than you could possibly imagine. The number one, probably the number one thing that I see when I'm hopping onto a new account is that they've got a ton of unanswered DMs, and at that point, it's been 6 months since this person DM'd you. They don't care about you anymore. They've moved on. They've chosen another product, whatever. So try and stay on top of that if you can, because it's really, really, really important. Super high intent users there. Tagging clients or partners, other local businesses, stuff like that can be super impactful, right? Grow together. That's never a bad thing, right? A lot of the time, what we'll do is call out customer testimonials and tag them, or like maybe we'll take a video with a customer when we're in a meeting or something, or hey, we just did a collaboration with this other business, or we just went to this trade show or expo. Like, let's tag them. So keep that in mind. Again, it's a super simple thing that gets overlooked a lot, but can make an impact because that sort of adds you to their network, their portfolio, and you guys can kind of share each other, grow together. Super, super helpful. Lastly, running giveaways or like contests are a cool way to engage, right? So the thing to consider there is people like free stuff. No, but really, I think that people are always just interested in that sort of thing. I mean, like I joke, but people do like free stuff, and if you have merchandise, or if you have like some sort of discount opportunity, or if you're running some whatever promotion, like that's a cool way to get people involved and get people excited. Is some sort of like contest. Um, so just keep that in mind. I wanted to call out some of those like engagement tips because it's sort of similarly to cadence is a question that I get asked quite a lot. All right, moving on now. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about um, ads, right? Paid ads. So, a few things to kind of consider when you're looking at social advertising. Like a few points I wanted to touch on, because paid campaigns on social media really can help you reach different homeowners, uh, dealers sometimes, depending on the social platform, like other retailers or whatever, if that's a segment that you're trying to work with, especially for your manufacturers and distributors out there. um, but yeah, it's a super, super great way to kind of get in touch with local markets. And we've got kind of a few tips there for folks to consider when they're creating social ads. First thing I wanted to call out is lead forms on Facebook and Instagram. So I think I mentioned this and kind of alluded to it earlier, but basically, the less hoops you make someone jump through to interact with you, the better, right? So, what's great about Facebook and Instagram is when you're running ads on those platforms, there is a feature for like the conversion action that you want them to take called lead forms. And what that does is, as opposed to driving them to your website to then convert, right? Where a million things can go wrong and they can get lost potentially. This allows you to collect some information, name, email, custom questions, whatever you want, qualifying questions, in exchange for maybe a downloadable offer or just a free consultation or free quote, whatever, right? But what's great about it is it doesn't make them leave the platform. They click the ad, the form pops up, they fill it, and they're done all in Facebook or all in Instagram. And that's going to drive up your conversion rate significantly most of the time, especially for cabinet businesses, depending on um, you know uh, who you're marketing to. Again, obviously, this is all subject to the particular target audience, but generally speaking, for cabinet businesses, really, really, really think about lead forms because it's gonna make an impact, and 9 times out of 10, it's gonna drive up your conversion rate, um, if you're doing that as opposed to driving them to the site for a conversion. Just something to consider. Um, Also, geo-targeted awareness. This might sound like a no-brainer, but especially like Meta, Facebook, and Instagram is really, really great for local. I've mentioned that I think 20 times now. So please, hopefully that gets drilled in your head. But um, you need to be promoting your cabinet brand a lot of the time, like especially if you're a showroom. This is more on the B2C side of things, but largely in like a 20 to 50-ish mile radius, sometimes upwards of like you know 60, maybe 65 if you are actually willing to work with that kind of market, that broad of a market, I should say. But a lot of the time, it's a lot more local. So um, Meta is really great for that. But to drive significant leads there, you just have to really make sure you've got strong visuals and a clear call to action. Um, so if it's scheduling a free kitchen design or something, cool. But just make it clear, concise, get their attention fast because it's gonna be quick. The engagements are really really quick. But if you can get their attention, if you can kind of stop them in their tracks and make them go, whoa, what? Then yeah, that it's Meta is really really great for that hyper local audience. And then um, this might shock some people, but one more thing I want to call out is video ads. So I already talked about video as an asset or a format, but especially for advertising guys, it's a really really great tool. And you don't need a huge budget or to allocate a ton of resources to video content. Just think about showcasing like fundamental client transformations. Just um, all the stuff that I talked about before. The fact of the matter is, video is going to outperform static imagery like 3 to 1. So please, if you're going to run ads, test it out, right? I'm not saying don't use static images, don't use carousels. Those can be super impactful, and a lot of the time we at Kitchen 365 will run all of those, test it out and see what the data says, to see which one performs best for your audience. But uh, a lot of the time, guys, video is gonna outperform the other formats. It's just the way of the world. That's the way that we're moving. Video is king. So consider that when you're running paid ads. And obviously, there's a million other things that go into paid advertising. It would take me forever to talk about all of them, and um, I could probably do a whole other live webinar specifically on video, or rather specifically on paid advertising for social platforms or paid advertising in general. So maybe be on the lookout for that moving forward, or let me know if that's something that you guys want to see. But yeah, these are just a few of the quick ones that, like, if you're going to build an ad campaign, especially in Meta, because we found a lot of success there for our clients recently. Then consider these three things just at a bare minimum. Um, and if you want to test out social advertising, you don't have to throw a ton of money at it. Maybe 10 to 20-ish bucks a day can give you a pretty good sample. Run that for 30 days. That comes out to what, like 600 bucks or so, I think. So run that to test it and see how it goes for you. Or if you want support or maybe some more infrastructure or some more knowledge, partner with more knowledge on that, please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help. And yeah, we've found that social ads can make a huge impact. So just want to call out, hey, look at that, Kitchen 365. So one quick thing I wanted to point out is, yes, obviously we at Kitchen 365 are a partner for cabinet businesses, right? We are more than happy to help with any of your social media management, organic, or paid needs. Um, if that is something that you'd be interested in, we handle the whole 9 yards, right? So just something to consider if you're curious about social media. If you've never given it a try, if you don't know where to start, we've got a lot of experience there for cabinet businesses. We've seen it work. We know it works. So give us a holler if you want some support there. And I think that is it. So got time for a few questions if anybody has any. I will give you guys a second to pop those in the chat. But hopefully this was helpful. I really tried to do my best to just kind of bring the lowest hanging fruit to the table, the easiest stuff to understand. So I hope that that was helpful. Looks like I'm not seeing really any questions coming in, so we will kind of go ahead and wrap up. But just to recap, growing your cabinet brand on social doesn't have to be difficult, doesn't have to be, overproduced. It just means showing up where your audience lives, posting consistently, um, in the formats that they like or enjoy, and then layering in, paid campaigns where you think it makes sense to try and scale. Um, but that's really all I've got for you today. If you want support there, Kitchen 365 is here to help to make your life easy, with anything from automated content scheduling to professional ad management to particular platforms designed to help cabinet businesses grow online efficiently and effectively. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, if you want a personalized social media plan, please, I'm more than happy to help. You can reach out and book a free strategy session with myself, um, and talk about how we can get this thing going for you. So, anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for spending the time here with me today. Again, I hope it was helpful, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.